Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Slasher. Alright, so this is a series that I guess a while back was on Chiller, but it's now on Netflix. Um, and that's where I caught it. And I guess there's 3 seasons of it, so just gonna kind of go through a little bit of each of them. I caught them all. I think they were about 8 or 9 episodes each season, so it wasn't a bad watch. I think almost an hour per episode, approximately. No, actually, maybe less. Maybe it was a half an hour. But yeah, I'm just gonna go through each season real quickly. I'm gonna read what I have here as the basic plot, and then just kind of talk about some of the things I liked about it. I've read a couple of things back and forth. I don't know whether there's going to be a 4th season. I think in some ways it said there was. I'm not sure if there really is going to be or not. And I'll let you know, I guess, at the end whether I think there should be a 4th season. Sometimes the series ends and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever, that's it. And other times, you're like, oh, I need another season of this. Like, Santa Clarita Diet. I wish they didn't cancel that, but I guess we're not getting any more of that. And I guess there's a couple other series from either Netflix or Amazon that I've done reviews for, and I can just wait and see whether there's going to be another season or not. I really have no clue for some of them. But anyway, let's just jump into this, and I'm going to kind of go through them through the order I watched. I guess there's different ways here of how they're displayed. But I'm going to start with Solace, which supposedly is what I thought was season 1. And the basics of that is Kent Jennings, a sex and drug addict, is murdered by someone using a druid costume in front of an apartment complex during the summer solstice, and the neighbors don't help him. Exactly 1 year later, a person using the same costume emerges and starts murdering every person who carries any kind of complicity in Jennings' murder. So, this is obviously, it's titled Slasher, so each of the seasons you get a different slasher. I mean, in a way, it's the same, but different. Different costumes and so forth. And here, you have a pretty neat costume, and I would say in all 3 seasons, the costumes for the killer are pretty cool. Pretty, I don't know, I'm not going to say scary, but I'm going to say pretty cool and intimidating. But here, you have a guy here, and he's in a party and whatever, and he's on drugs, and he loves sex and so forth, and he gets murdered. And what they do here is they take you, as you go through the episodes, they kind of take you on a journey and fill you in a little bit about the events that happened around time of his murder. And then in the present day, you're seeing the aftermath of his murder, obviously a year later. And you're seeing where his neighbors are now, and as these murders start to take place, their reaction to it. And most of the murders are taking place in this apartment complex, and most of them are his neighbors in one way or the other. And so you're kind of seeing the neighbors react to the deaths that start happening. You're seeing the neighbors react to each other. You're then obviously flashing back and seeing how those neighbors reacted to each other a year before, and then how they reacted obviously to Kit. He's not the most likable character. I guess he is what he is. He's a sex addict and a drug user. And He doesn't care whether it's men or women or whatever. He just loves that. And so, he might come off as interesting to some of his neighbors and then others not so much. What I liked here is as you see the different elements of when he eventually gets killed, there's some nice pieces that are put together. And I don't know how long into it, when you see the full picture of how he dies. But there are some interesting things, and you kind of see different pieces of different neighbors and what they were doing and how they play a role in his death. So obviously, that's a focus, and you're going to see different. This one's got a lot of different neighbors here. You're going to see some. You're going to see a white guy who's very racist, and you're going to not like him, but then you're going to kind of, if you give him a chance, you're going to kind of see why he's kind of turned that way. You're going to see a guy who's cheating on his wife, and when he's gay, or I guess he's also bisexual because he's cheating on with a guy down the hall. But she is kind of overlooked that because she kind of becomes obsessed with the whole murder thing that's going on, and she's trying to use it to get views on her blog. So something I can understand. But you're gonna see that. Then you're gonna see another couple with two women who have two teenagers, and you're going to see kind of what goes wrong in that household as well. And you're going to see another couple of people here, and you're just basically going to see their inner workings. And like I said, some characters you're going to like, some you're not going to like. Some of them, when they get killed, you're going to be like, yeah, okay, I'm glad that person's dead. And then others, you probably have some sympathy for. And I think that besides the horror of it's a pretty interesting episode or season just because of the mix of people they have in the complex. They really mix it up here. You're having a lot of interracial, or I should say, like I said, a lot of bisexual, gay people. There's cheating, there's racism, there's just a hotbed of mess there where you could see individuals not getting along. There's plenty of reasons why these neighbors don't like each other or might not accept each other, and so forth. And then it kind of gives you different reasons for the audience to like and dislike characters. So they really do a good job of building up just a hot mess of people in this building. And then they're of course going to start getting picked off, and then the cops are involved, and the cops are trying to solve this case. I would say they do a pretty decent job of hiding who the eventual killer is. I don't think they kind of gave it away too early. Eventually, towards the end, you're going to kind of pick up on who it might be. And obviously you're going to narrow it down because there's less and less people as this goes on. But I think they did a pretty good job of hiding it early on. So you're just early on, you're probably not going to know at all. You can take your pick of people they show. And I don't think they really try to lead you in a false direction too much. They are just going to give you the gauntlet of characters here, and like I said, there's different possibilities, and I think that some you might weed out just because when you see the killer, they obviously have a certain size and height to them and so forth. So when you start trying to match it up, It may or may not work for some characters. But I think overall they did a good job of hiding it. And then as far as the deaths, and this probably goes for all 3 seasons, being slasher, obviously the horror audience wants to see some good deaths here. And there are some. The killers and all of these seasons are brutal. There's plenty of blood at times. Sometimes there's more simple kills, but sometimes they can be plain old brutal and blood. And again, this is on Netflix, so they're not really hiding anything. So if you're kind of just, if you're not as much interested in the story, but you just want to see almost a good old slasher, this might kind of fill that void for you a little bit. You're just gonna have to I would say some episodes might have multiple kills, but usually there's about 1 kill per episode, I think. I didn't really count it off, but they don't want to kill everybody too soon. Maybe some had a little bit more, but so you're gonna have to sit through a little bit of the character building and so forth, and the throwing off. And like I said, this season, it touches on racism and the mix of different people and racism and towards there's I believe she was Iranian girl, so there's always some racism towards her. So it's back and forth. It's a lot to take in there. So that's also a good element if you're looking for a story and stuff of that nature. So I enjoyed that season, and I obviously, that was, like I said, the first one I watched. So therefore I continued on, and I continued on to the next one here. And let me see. This one is called Guilty Party. And I'll read real quickly what basically the summary of this one is. In the dead of winter, a group of former summer camp counselors return to the resort where they participated in the murder of Talvin Gill and hid her body. However, the body has vanished from the secret spot they hid it. Eventually, they are trapped in the resort, and one by one start being killed by a person wearing a parka. So, person wearing a parka doesn't sound too scary, but still, the way they shoot it and the way the person wears the parka, and then they have those big ski goggles on, and, they kind of always shoot them almost at an angle, so it looks like they got a darker face there. Very intimidating and so forth. Look for the killer here. The first story didn't seem as familiar, being in the apartment setting one. This one kind of felt a little more familiar because it kind of started or centered around the camp counselor kind of thing. Not to say that this is a Friday the 13th or anything like that, but it's kind of, you kind of think in that direction. And here it's another one where you're kind of going back and forth. This one you're going a little bit further back in time, 5 years, and you're seeing the events of what amounts to, I guess, older teens and younger college students. I really am not clear exactly how old they were, but they're basically, in camp and doing the camp thing, and they have kids there and so forth, and they're entertaining the kids, and it's obviously one of those kind of camps that Camp Crystal Lake, where you have kids, they're swimming and doing all kinds of stuff in the outdoors, but as it kind of goes on, you're going to see the relationship between some of these characters, and this Talvinger girl, you're gonna go back and forth on her, whether you like her and you feel bad that she got killed, or you're not gonna feel bad that she got killed. And she does some things to the other counselors at time as you see this goes on that makes it hard to root for her. But then there are other things that happen to her, and you're kind of like, why? Like why she had to suffer a death just because of this. But a lot of it is just relationships. Boys liking girls, girls liking certain boys, and things not working out, and certain people cheating on each other, and that kind of thing, and jealousy, and you got all that build up there. So that's kind of what goes on that end. And then on the other end of it, you have it 5 years later, and you kind of think about it. You get away with a crime or something like that. They should have just moved on, but instead, this group of friends of former counselors, have come back to this resort, and it's now not a resort anymore, or a different kind of resort. It's kind of like a retreat now to go and I guess rehabilitate yourself. I'm gonna call it short of a religious thing, but just basically for a place where they have certain rules, and it's just for you to kind of relax, chill, and maybe recover from whatever you're doing. So it's not a regular hotel, or it's not obviously for kids anymore. And but so you have some people that are already there. So you're going to have them, and you're going to have them mixed with these people who have come up here. At a certain point, there's a death almost immediately when they get there. And as things start to go wrong, the people who are already there in this resort kind of figure out that these people were here and were camp counselors at one time here, and they're kind of wondering what they're doing there. And then they eventually figure out about the death of the girl, and they're wondering how that is playing into the deaths that start taking place. And so you have a group of people who are basically up there minding their own business, doing their own thing, and trying to concentrate on becoming better in their lives. And now they've kind of got themselves tied in with this killing that starts going on. And again, some brutal kills, some really good kills. Anything named slasher, you can't not have some good kills in it. I mean, you're just ruining the name in itself. So again, some brutal and good kills, lots of blood. I don't want to go into specifics of any of the kills, but again, some of them are better than others, and I think most of it seemed to be practical effects here. So we're not seeing a lot of any trickery with CGI and so forth to lessen it. This story is gonna, it doesn't take the same, whole. I guess it does in a way. It does do a lot of character building again, and you're going to see different characters, and you're going to like certain characters and dislike certain characters. They may try to lead you in one direction or so forth. Each episode may kind of pick on one or two people to kind of focus on what was happening before, what happens later. You do get some flashbacks of the people who are already in the resort, and how they ended up there, and there's going to be one individual who kind of, you're going to learn, they're going to kind of give it away, and you're going to learn that he's not such a good person, and you're going to really think that, okay, this person is the one. But Not really, and I guess that's a little bit of a spoiler, but you know what the hell. Um, I think they also make this one a little difficult to figure out who it is. Obviously, it's going to get narrowed down as the less people are there. The conditions make it so that they're stuck there. So if you're wondering why don't they just leave, apparently it was a hard trek up there, and it snowed really bad, and they can't get out. So that's that. Um, Again, this is almost like American Horror Story in the way that you're going to see some of the actors return. So some of the actors that were in one season return for another season, and some of them are in all three, I believe. But not all. You do get some fresh faces here, so it's not, um, it's not too confusing. And I think if it was the complete same, American Horror Story kind of makes it work, but new faces kind of make it easier to separate the stories and the characters and so forth. So yeah, I don't know that you're going to dive into the relationships of these people maybe in the same way as the other one, but you might get there might be one or two that you kind of get into here. And again, it's going to be a lot of do you care that the girl is killed? Do you not care? You're going to be happy that some people end up dying, and then others you're going to be like, and then this one kind of leads I'm going to say the ending is a little bit open. You are going to know who the killer is, and I'm not. This one I might not be completely sold on who the killer was, and their ability to do what they did. They obviously give the person a prime reason, and again you're going to as this kind of gets to the end, you're going to have more of the pieces of the puzzle to figure out what happened here. But I'm not completely sold on this killer being able to do everything that they eventually did. But that happens sometimes. But yeah, it is a little bit. It's obviously a different kind of explanation to the first one. So I would just say, at first glance, this is kind of almost like a Friday the 13th. Then by the time the way it ends, it may kind of teeter into another famous franchise of horror. I'm not going to mention because then I think that kind of gives away too much information there with respects to the killer. So with that, I will go to the third one here, and that is The Executioner. And I'll read real quickly what it says here. Sarah Bennett and her husband Dylan moved to the town of her birth. Fiction is Waterbury, Canada. Into her childhood home, where both her parents were murdered on Halloween of 1988. Her mother was pregnant with Sarah at the time of the killing before the police arrest the killer, who was holding the newborn baby. Sarah's return to Waterbury is greeted with the start of a series of copycat murders, all appearing at the hands of the executioner. So, again, events are going to be split. You're going to see present time and then many years ago. I believe the first episode shows the events, and that's actually a pretty cool scene. And then, again, they're going to go back to it several times. When this executioner comes to the door, you're going to see the two parents there, and you're not going to really know much when you're the first time you see them. You're going to really know nothing. You're just going to basically see them in a pretty cool death scene, and brutal again. This one's brutal, and here the executioner's got a cool mask again. And, same story here. He's a slasher, everything's brutal, and some good kills, and this one is as it goes on is a little bit tilted towards the seven sins, and there's kind of a religious aspect to it. I don't think they overdo it, but obviously the murders and deaths are kind of tied to those. So it's kind of giving the executioner a reason. He's kind of waiting for the person to break one of the sins in order to kill them, but all having purpose. And again, the story is centered on Sarah here, and it's going to be obviously people in town that are connected to her in one way or the other. Obviously, she has a little bit of an unusual story. Her parents are gone. You see her grandmother come later. She's with a guy, Dylan, who is kind of like a reporter, and he's going to basically work for a small newspaper in town with aspirations of making it bigger and making both the newspaper and himself more known, and career opportunities and so forth. So you're kind of maybe seeing some motive there for him to be a possibility of the killer here. It kind of takes a media stance the further this goes on. Obviously, they're in town, so they're covering the story, and as more deaths go on, they kind of bring in somebody else who kind of puffs the story up and makes it even a more national story. So you kind of got that mix going on. Then obviously you have a small police force here that's dealing with it, and maybe there's some media police debate going on there. That's just a little side story. You have obviously the chief in charge, his right hand man, a couple of other police people here, and then you're just gonna have some other people that are in town that have relations either with Sarah or with her parents at the time. So you're going to have all those connections going on. And you're going to find out some things. As, in a way, Sarah's in a search for herself. She doesn't know a lot about her parents and she's missing kind of a part of herself because of that. So as she spends time there, and then as these murders start to take place, she starts doing some diggings because she thinks it has something to do with, whatever her parents were up to. And also the murderer is still alive, and she goes and talks with him, and he plays a role in it. So the original executioner, as you want to call him. So you want to find out, she tries to find out from him, why he killed the parents. So, as kind of she goes on this journey, you go on this journey with her and put the pieces together. And there's probably maybe a few things you might predict, and maybe a few things that are a little shocking about, this relationship between all these characters. But again, I think this one is maybe a little bit more plain as just the characters of the characters. There's not too much, comments on interracial stuff or being racist or maybe bullying like in the second one. This one's maybe more of a straightforward thing. Like I said, they bring a little bit of religious in here. There is a certain thing that happens with one character, which is a little bit of a shock. You might not have seen it coming. They it's almost like a side story and maybe something to kind of throw you off a little bit. And it was a little bit of shock there as well, and not a good situation. Yeah, and I'm going to say maybe this one of all three, you're probably going to guess who the killer is, or at least narrow it down probably sooner. Because it just seemed that way. It just seemed like it had to be one of a smaller group of people than maybe the other ones, even though, these, I would say maybe the one in the apartment building probably had the most amount of people overall. But not all of them obviously were suspects, or not all of them could have been the killer just because of who they were. But I think as this one starts to unfold, there's probably less possibilities of who it is if you're kind of really looking at things. But I don't think that ruined it. This is probably the least of the complicatedness of the stories. I'm not, super into the religion thing, as far as knowing all these things and how they played in with all the deaths. But I, as they go, they kind of try to point that out, and it kind of makes it more clear. But again, you don't have to really be into that to know what's going on here. But I guess the ending will make sense in the end. And again, I think if you look at it and you see what eventually happens, you could probably, this series being named Slasher, you can kind of see, at least with this episode and the one with the resort, kind of being connected to, in a way. I mean, you have to use your thought and think about it a little bit, but to other slashers out there, at least. At least when they go to one of the scenes here and flashback, you kind of being reminded of another slasher in horror history here. So it's nice to see them kind of sprinkle that in, or pay a line or two, or maybe it was just a coincidence. I don't know what they were thinking when they put us together, but just the thought of that was a little bit interesting. So. I guess that's about it. They may have a fourth season. I don't know. I was looking at a couple of things. It seemed unclear. I would be down with that. I think they presented enough. Maybe use a little bit more of different characters now. It works for American Horror Story, but here maybe it's just not as necessary. So I would say maybe freshen it up, use more different characters. Not that any of the acting was bad. I thought the acting was good enough, and everybody handled their roles pretty well. There were some that were better than others, obviously, and but just having a series named Slasher is a little exciting in itself, and then kind of filling that with having somebody who's good at killing and presenting some good deaths and brutal deaths is all good stuff. So if you can kind of do that again and come up with a good story, I say go for it. I'm not typically one for the back and forth. So sometimes that bothers me, but it seemed to play well here, and they kind of sprinkle, if you're kind of like mysteries as well, they're kind of sprinkling it in here and giving you a little bit more back and forth as they go. But sometimes a movie like that, when it's a movie, this is just a series, but when it's a movie, sometimes that bothers me. But I guess it kind of depends on if they're doing a good enough job with what they're introducing and what they're hiding and so forth, and how interested you are in figuring out what is going on. So it's not like you have to sit here and who's the killer? I think you can let that kind of come to you and just kind of enjoy what's happening. And like I said, there are statements made, or at least issues and stuff that you can relate to as you go on. Here's things that you see on the news and so forth, racism and bullying and all that, those kind of topics thrown into the different moments here. I don't know that I'm going to give it a pool of blood rating, because I don't know if the series is over or not. I guess I could put it in the 3 pools of blood area, and that's 3 out of 5 pools of blood. But we'll see if they do a 4th one or not. Again, I'm all for it, and see what they can put together. And it's good that it's we have a Netflix where you don't have to worry too much about too much of the censorship here, and they'll let them have fun and kill and let all the blood splattering fun happen. So with that is my thoughts on Slasher the series. Again, that's on Netflix, or at least that's where I saw it. And as usual, more information will be down below, and you can subscribe to this channel for more video reviews. Visit horrorgory-reviews.blogspot.com for more written reviews. You'll find these video reviews there as well, and Twitter, Facebook, down below as well. Feel free to join me there. If you need me to review something, reach out to me. If I can do it, I'll do it. And that's gonna be about it. And I'll catch you with the next slasher movie, hopefully. Horror fans.